us pray. We give thanks to God for the rich heritage of this province as found in our people. We pray that native-born Albertans and those who have come from other places may continue to work together to preserve and enlarge this precious heritage called Alberta. Amen.
Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions. Introduction of bills.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Buffalo.
I request leave to introduce a bill number 222, being an act to amend the Interprovincial Lottery Act, which would require lottery expenditures to be reviewed and approved by the legislature.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Buffalo has proposed first reading of Bill number 222, an act to amend the Interprovincial Lotteries Act number 2. All those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 222, an act to amend the Interprovincial Lottery Act number 2, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Schumer, is now read a first time.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Buffalo.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill number 225, being an act to amend the Auditor General Act, and this would expand the authority of the Provincial Auditor General to provide value for money audits, as well as expanding the jurisdiction of the Auditor General to audit companies which are not 100% owned by the provincial government.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Buffalo has introduced Bill number 225 for first reading, an act to amend the Auditor General Act. All those in favor of this motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 225, an act to amend the Auditor General Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Schumer, is now read a first time. Tabling returns and reports.
The Honourable Minister of Energy.
Speaker, I'm pleased to table the 1989 annual report of the Alberta Petroleum Marketing Commission.
The Honourable Minister of Recreation and Parks.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to file with the Assembly copies of response to motion for return number 204.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to table with the Assembly the annual report of the Department of Health for the fiscal year ended March 31, 1989. I'm also tabling the Health Care Insurance Statistical Supplement for the fiscal year ending March 31, 89. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I wish to table the Alberta Health Schedules for 1988-89, showing actual payments to hospitals and nursing home by facility.
The Honourable Minister of Labour.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure this afternoon to table the annual report for the Department of Labour.
Introduction of special guests.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton-Whitemud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to introduce to you, and through you to my colleagues in the Legislative Assembly, 68 bright, eager students from the Duggan Elementary School in the riding of Whitemud. They're accompanied today by 3 teachers, Linda Neeran, Helga Cooper, and Arnold Ostfield. They're seated in the public gallery. I would ask them to rise and stand as we give them the customary warm applause of the House.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Glenmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly 3 seniors who live in Calgary-Glenmore and are members of the Southwood Seniors Group. And their names are Audrey Bothwell, Elsie Knowles, Margaret Baker. Would you please rise and receive this warm welcome from the Assembly?
Honourable Member for West Yellowhead.
Speaker, I'd like to introduce to you 5 hard-working volunteers from the beautiful community of Edson in the riding of West Yellowhead. They are Florence Gower, Jean Mercier, Laurie McInowich, Tom Williams, and Carrie Broom. Mr. Speaker, they're in Edmonton today to express their concerns to the press and the citizens of Alberta in the underhanded way the government transferred the St. John's Hospital from a voluntary organization. I ask the members of the legislature to give them a warm welcome.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Highlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm assuming that since about this time yesterday, the Minister of Occupational Health and Safety, the Minister responsible for the Workers' Compensation Board, has had time to consult with his officials with respect to a matter raised in the Assembly yesterday, and that is a company's intention to unlawfully fine workers who are injured on the job against the act itself, Mr. Speaker. My question to the minister is this. Now that he's had time to review the matter, does he agree that that act is unlawful, and will he now go after that company to make sure it does not proceed with its intentions?
Mr. Speaker, I have not consulted with my officials in regard to that question because all I received yesterday was 2 blank pieces of paper, and I don't know if that company would ever take effect in what they were doing.
Mr. Speaker, the minister is basically saying if you threaten to violate an act of this assembly, you're off the hook. It's only if you do it that you're going to get caught. My question to the minister is this. Will he agree to contacting the company in question, NOWSCO, and tell them, A, that this is illegal, that even their intentions are questionable, and B, that they have no right to fine compensable injuries by workers who are injured on the job?
Mr. Speaker, I would contact the Workers' Compensation Board and make sure that they advise the employers of what's in the act and make sure they follow the act.
Mr. Speaker, I wonder, you know, this is a pretty lax attitude by a minister who's supposed to be responsible for the health and safety of workers in this province. Is the minister satisfied that there are no other underhanded, extortionist tricks being contemplated or played by other employers who basically want to saddle injured workers with the premiums that they have to pay? Is he satisfied?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I have not received any concerns such as what's being raised today. Now, if the honourable member across the way has something in writing, has something positive, something from an employee that the employer is taken against that employee, I wish they would provide that information to me. But until that happens, Mr. Speaker, there's no way I can act.
Yeah. The Honourable Member for Edmonton.
In the event that the minister really did receive blank copies, in a minute he will not receive them. He will get the real McCoy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to designate the second question the member for Edmonton Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one of the top priorities for us New Democrats is to ensure that Alberta children can grow up in a healthy environment in this province, and I'm proud in fact that our leader is the only leader who is himself leading a full task force on the needs of children to grow up in a healthy environment in this province. But Mr. Speaker, however, Mr. Speaker, just last week, a report by Dr. Bob Rogers of the health unit in the west side of the province released his study into the adverse health effects of the Pelican Spruce Mill in Drayton Valley, which mill emits fly ash and fine particulates, which Dr. Rogers concludes can cause severe respiratory problems, including asthma, and even fine particulates which are carcinogenic as well. Mr. Speaker, we're most alarmed by this situation as we've talked to people in Drayton Valley, and we want to know today what actions the Minister of Health has undertaken to ensure that the health of the people in Drayton Valley is not put at risk like this, and that the children there can grow up in a healthy environment which they deserve.
Mr. Speaker, the report on the environmental health in the Drayton Valley area was appropriately commissioned by the health unit of the area. We have now received a copy of that report, and both the environmental health people in the Department of Health and the health unit are reviewing it extensively, and obviously we'll be sharing it with other departments of government.
Well, Mr. Speaker, don't tell me that this minister is going to have another review of another study.
Yeah.
What we need is to have some action here. This mill, as we know, is obeying only 1966 Alberta Environment Standards, which at that time did not even take into account the adverse health effects of the mill, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to ask the Minister of Health to take some personal and direct action in this regard. And if she will not, in fact, personally come with me to a meeting with Mrs. Debbie Brigley of Drayton Valley to discuss firsthand the adverse health effects of the mill on her two children, many respiratory and other related health problems, will she come to Drayton Valley and get to the root of these problems and to hear firsthand what's going on with these children there, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, I asked officials in my Department of Health to attend the meeting, and they did so, and we are now reviewing the report. And as much as I respect the honourable member's interest in health and my own interest in health, I am not an expert in health. And I think it's appropriate that the health unit that serves the community of Drayton Valley and the environmental health people and the Department of the Environment review that report for the impact that it can have on children and all Albertans to ensure that appropriate responses are made by government.
That's responsible.
Mr. Speaker, this minister is the expert in how health units are funded. And as we know, Mr. Speaker, the health units have repeatedly asked for increased funding. They got less than inflation, only a 3% increase to the environmental health services in the budget. Last year, the Alberta Public Health Association has repeatedly asked for health impact and risk assessment studies to be done on any new developments as well as some of these old ones. And I want to know how the Minister of Health can sit idly by, not giving the money where it's deserved, not giving the personal money, the commitment that's deserved, when our children deserve to grow up in a healthy environment throughout this province.
Mr. Speaker, my commitment to this portfolio is a commitment to every single Albertan and their access to health services and their right to a healthy environment. That is the responsibility I share with all my colleagues in government. The fact, Mr. Speaker, that the health unit commissioned the study, I think is indication of the resources and the appropriate call on an appropriate expert to review the matter that is going on within our health system today.
The Honourable Leader of the Liberal Party, the member for Edmonton Glengarry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one of the unfortunate results of First Minister's meeting for some 80 hours in secret are the rumors that abound after those meetings, and another unfortunate aspect are the tangled webs that are created from those secret meetings. One tangled web that is now clearly in the minds of Albertans and of Canadians is, was there a deal or wasn't there a deal insofar as the appointment of Mr. Waters? Today, I'm informed that the Deputy Prime Minister in the House of Commons indicated that there was a clear understanding that there would be no elections for 5 years while this commission that's looking at a reformed Senate would be doing its job. Our Premier has indicated that there was no deal.
The fifth sentence now of this introduction.
Very simple. I believe our Premier. Why is it that the Prime Minister is misrepresenting a situation completely different to Canadians than what our Premier has represented in this Assembly?
Well, Mr. Speaker, surely the honourable member should ask either the Deputy Prime Minister or the Prime Minister if he's somehow referring to things they've said. We dealt with this yesterday, Mr. Speaker, from the Alberta point of view. And as I said then, I made it very clear to the Prime Minister, and I make it clear now to the House. And I've talked to the Prime Minister about this. Alberta has the legislation. Alberta will use that legislation whenever it sees fit. There's no commitment to do anything else. I think it's wise to consider and watch how the Senate reform process proceeds. But there is absolutely no way that Alberta will not use the Senate selection process when it sees fit to do so.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister of this whole country on more than one occasion, is giving a very different set of explanations on this. Who do we believe here? I want to believe the Premier, but Mr. Premier, isn't it your responsibility to table a letter or something that clears this matter up with the Prime Minister immediately? Because he's getting away with something that is quite incorrect from the position that you're taking.
Well, Mr. Speaker, why table a letter? There's no agreement. There is no agreement. And other First Ministers have already indicated that. And the Premier of British Columbia has just mentioned it. So, Mr. Speaker, I don't know why the leader of the Liberal Party is confused, because there's certainly no one in the government here confused. I want to just say for emphasis, the leader of the Liberal Party and his party voted against the Senate selection bill. We wouldn't even have Mr. Waters, we wouldn't even have Mr. Waters selected or appointed if they had had their way.
Right.
It was this government who introduced the bill, this legislature who passed it, and it's a historical move, Mr. Speaker, and we've been able to have a breakthrough for the first time in the history of our country, and I guess they don't like it. But, Mr. Speaker, that legislation's on the books and will be used whenever we feel it should be used.
Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker, I think it should be clearly established for the record that the idea for the election of a senator comes from Nick Taylor. And it takes the Premier a little time to steal ideas from other people. My last question, the honorable members across the way don't remember that, conveniently don't remember that. Mr. Speaker,
The Liberal Party would like to ask a final supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, my final question is this. Why can't Albertans elect, when Mrs. Belash ends her term in the fall, why can't they elect a senator to look after the needs of Albertans? Why is it necessary to deny Albertans the right to have a representative in the Senate? I'd like a reason for that.
Well, I thank the honourable member for the opportunity to respond, as I did yesterday, Mr. Speaker, that the people of Alberta have mentioned to us one of the concerns of having a standalone election for one senator. Nevertheless, it may well happen. We also said that we would look as the bill allows for either municipal or provincial election as well, so that it's tied in and lowers the cost. But if we're going to talk, Mr. Speaker, about allowing a Senate selection, let me just draw attention to Hansard, August the 15th, 1989, because the member raised this again. And the Speaker called for a vote for the Senate selection. All those against the Senate Selection Act. And here we have Mr. Decor against it. And if he's the champion and the originator, Mr. Taylor, also against it. Mr. Taylor.
Turn this straight.
Now, the lesser lights in the Liberal Party are in here, too. I won't go into all the details. But, Mr. Speaker, there they are. They all voted against it. And now, boy, if it looks like there's some political chance, get in there and try and get on the wagon.
Order, please. Before recognizing the honourable member for Grand Prairie, the chair feels compelled to remind the honourable leader of the Liberal Party that Beauchene 501 prevents the use of exhibits in the Assembly. The honourable member for Grand Prairie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is directed to the Minister responsible for Public Safety Services, and I'd like to make reference to the fact that the County of Grand Prairie has been in a state of emergency for the last few days with all of the rain. In fact, the last few hours, there's been 165 millimeters, which means in excess of 6.5 inches, and there are 17 rivers that have been negatively impacted with this kind of flood. Obviously, people have had property damaged, and there are some threats still to come, and I was wondering if the minister could tell us about his action plan where people can make contact with respect to their emergencies.
Mr. Speaker, events such as the one that is occurring in northwestern Alberta right now change at a given hour, but where we're at right now, Mr. Speaker, is that at 2:20 this afternoon, and I've just received this note, that the mayor for the town of Peace River has called the Blue Alert, or an advisory evacuation for the town of Peace River. The lower west side of the town of Peace River has been asked to evacuate their houses, and registration, there is a number in the Peace River area, a phone number 624-2861, where citizens in the town of Peace River might want to be located. The Peace River itself will presumably peak in the town of Peace River this afternoon between 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock, Mr. Speaker. Earlier today, the town of Fort Vermilion was advised that, in essence, the water will crest in the Fort Vermilion area later in the week, and there has been a request been submitted to the Alberta government through an agency of the government for 20,000 additional sandbags that are now being delivered to the high-level area. And I want to repeat, Mr. Speaker, that anticipation is that the Peace River will peak at Peace River between 6 and 8 o'clock this afternoon, and at Fort Vermilion on Friday, June 15, around the supper time hour as well, and at Peace Point in the Northwest Territories boundary by supper hour on June 17. We've also have people in the field today, Mr. Speaker, advising all Indian settlements along the river of these changing circumstances with respect to water levels. It may very well be, Mr. Speaker, that my colleagues, the Minister of Transportation Utilities and the Minister of the Environment, may have additional information that they would want to supplement as it continues to evolve.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm interested in that last report. My home is behind the dikes at Peace River, and I may be going up there to sandbag. But seriously, you wouldn't fit in the bag, sir. Mr. Speaker, my chin maybe, but your mouth is. Better get back on track, Mr. Speaker. But from the standpoint of highways, one of the major concerns we have right now is the bridge at Watino. It's being watched very closely because the water is at the bridge level, and we're concerned about that. As well as within the town of Peace River, the bridge across the Hart River is the one that may be a problem for us as it peaks a little later today. One of the concerns we have is we're not able at this point to assess the total damage in the area because a great number of the roads are still underwater. Some of the culverts and some of the bridges are gone, and we'll be assessing that on an hourly basis so that we can determine what the next move is. And working very closely with my colleague, Minister of Public Safety Services.
A supplemental question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister responsible for Transportation and Utilities, I'd like to extend the question with respect to the Alberta Resources Railway and any damage that might be involved there.
Well, Mr. Speaker, in that particular point, a message that I got within the last hour is that we have 5 problems on the Alberta Resources Railroad at mile 112, 117, 116, 125, and 164, with the damage anywhere from about 1,500 feet to, in one case, the river's change of course. The river's not going where the bridge is.
The honourable member for Edmund Strathcona.
Obliged, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Labour as Acting Attorney General, and it concerns the meeting tomorrow of the Law Society at which they will consider severing connection with the legal aid system in this province. The honourable learned member will be aware of that. And the reason is, Mr. Speaker,
that the government of Alberta refuses to increase the funding of legal aid to a level where the lawyers there will be getting somewhere between a half and 1/4 of what the government pays for civil lawyers that they fund from time to time as prompts, e.g. in the code inquiry, instead of the present level of between 1/4 and 1/8. I submit that that's shameful, Mr. Speaker, and I ask the Minister, how can the government of this province justify that typical conservative discrimination against those who act for the poor?
Mr. Speaker, the member for Edmonton Strathcona is always eloquent as he has been in the courtroom. He is here as well. But let me point out that legal aid is a practice that this government has supported for years because we believe quite firmly in equal access to the criminal justice system and in fact to the entire justice system for those people in the province who cannot afford it. By the same token, there is now ongoing a debate as to the fees that are paid to lawyers acting through the legal aid system. And as I understand it, the Law Society of Alberta has been holding some discussions and indeed have come up with a report. They are considering that report tomorrow. We would anticipate receiving that report and their recommendations early next week. And we are very much looking forward to receiving that so that we can have ongoing discussions with the Law Society.
Yes, the report, so-called, was delivered in October of last year. It's tomorrow they are acting on the recommendation to get out of it, having had 6 months for the government to consider, and the government doing nothing. I asked the Minister, Mr. Speaker, how the government can continue to justify the level of funding, which runs at 1/3 approximately of the per capita level in Ontario, for example. How can they possibly justify that?
As I said, Mr. Speaker, we have been having ongoing discussions with the Law Society of Alberta on this issue, a very important issue, and they have had discussions with certain stakeholders, as I understand it, in the public, and they have been gathering those comments and will be, in fact, putting those together and will be submitting their recommendations and the report to the Attorney General early next week, whereupon the discussions with the Law Society will continue. And I would like to reiterate at this time that the principle behind our efforts over the years to fund the legal aid system is that there be equal access by all those who need it to such fundamental areas, particularly the criminal justice system.
Now, a member for Westlock Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question today is to either Bonnie or Clyde and the Ministers of Agriculture. I don't know who's responsible for it. The unfortunate part of the range in northwest Alberta is that it affects a great number of farmers too, and the same farmers that were kept off the land from harvesting their crop last fall. And I know the ministers have been in the area visiting, and I'm sure they're aware of this, but also that this, because of the rain, the same farmers will not be able to qualify for crop insurance this year, because one of the qualifications, Mr. Speaker, is that the seed bed has to have been prepared, but it can't be prepared, in other words. So could one of the ministers inform the House just how we're going to handle this double calamity, you might say, because farmers are not qualifying for crop insurance this coming year, and yet they can't get on the land or even to prepare the bed.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm not entirely sure if the honourable member is discussing the unceded acreage clause of crop insurance or the general program. I would ask for clarification on that. There is a clause in the or a portion of the Crop Insurance Act that does allow for a payment of up to $20 an acre for unceded acreage because of excessive moisture. There is also in the contract a section that does require that it be prepared for seeding. I expect that is the clause that the honorable member is discussing, not the general crop insurance coverage. I would just simply inform the member and the House that we are working with the corporation and with Agriculture Canada to address that issue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. $20 is small compensation compared to the real what you should get if your crop-bearing land is out of commission. So I think it's quite important to realize that there's much more to be yield if we can get it as crop-bearing land. Could the minister then go this far as to tell the House what percentage or how close we are to completing the program of present aid that was only decided a short while ago to help them out for last fall? My understanding is that many farmers are still to receive their check. What percentage of that total program has been completed, and when can they expect the last checks?
Well, I will just make one comment, and then I would ask that the Minister of Public Safety would answer the question, because it is that program I think the honourable member is discussing. I would just say that the unceded acreage of $20 an acre, that portion, was really designed to cover input costs that producers incurred in preparing the land for seeding. So that is why the amount is set the way it is. So if you made some cultivation passes, you spread some fertilizer, if you used Avadex or Treflan, and then were unable to seed, this was designed to cover that, at least help cover your input costs in preparation of the land. And that was the intention of the unceded acreage portion. I think the Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services might want to respond to the question on the program from last year.
Mr. Speaker, the program that was announced earlier this year by the Premier and Sexsmith is one that has been responded to date. The neighborhood of, I guess, nearly 1,700 claims have been dealt with at a total cost of over $16.5 million, Mr. Speaker. And it's our intent and our hope that by the end of June that we would have most of those claims dealt with. The situation, of course, continues to develop, Mr. Speaker, as we stand here today, that there is a state of emergency, as an example, in the county of Grand Prairie that has to be dealt with. And we have other matters evolving at the same time. Assessments can only be done when a disaster situation has abated, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Clover Bar.
Speaker, my question today is directed to the Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services. The old jail property in the city of Fort Saskatchewan, the lands and the buildings, have not been actively used for the past 2 years. Community groups in the city, sports organizations and cultural associations, and individual residents in the city of Fort Saskatchewan as well as in the region want and request that the buildings be used for community purposes. And City Council of the city of Fort Saskatchewan has applied to the province to obtain the buildings for such use. Will the minister transfer ownership of certain buildings to the city so that they may be used effectively in the community rather than let them deteriorate through non-use and limited operations and maintenance?
Mr. Speaker, within the confines of the city of Fort Saskatchewan, there's the old correctional center site in an area of approximately 180 acres that currently has buildings on it, and there's no acute usage for it at the moment. What the province has been doing with the city of Fort Saskatchewan the last several years is asking and working with the city of Fort Saskatchewan and asking the city to identify what property within that 180-acre site might be usable to the citizens of Fort Saskatchewan for either historic reasons, tourism reasons, recreation reasons. Another larger portion of that amount of acreage, of course, would be land that might be developable. We would not be in a position nor want to transfer ownership to any title of land within the city of Fort Saskatchewan that might be developable and used by the city to create a profit for themselves. Those lands of the province, the land was declared surplus, would be made available to the public at market value. But if there was a usage within the city for historic recreation purposes, there may be a small portion of that site, including the buildings, that the province after negotiation, might be in a position to provide to the City of Fort Saskatchewan at nominal rate. There's an advantage for the province to basically work towards this because annually it costs the taxpayers of the province of Alberta over $500,000 to deal with the maintenance of the site, plus the provision of the grant in lieu of taxes we're currently making to the City of Fort Saskatchewan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the city has actually made an application to acquire some of the buildings. I would ask the minister, will the minister commence and actively work toward concluding negotiations with the City of Fort Saskatchewan for all of the buildings on the old correctional property and also the lands as expeditiously as possible, such that some effective and beneficial use of those properties may be made?
Mr. Speaker, it would be my intent to visit the City of Fort Saskatchewan at the conclusion of this sitting of the Legislative Assembly and to have an opportunity to meet with the Mayor of the City of Fort Saskatchewan, along, of course, with the member of the Legislative Assembly, Clover Bar, and the Town Council of Fort Saskatchewan, as well as have an opportunity to review personally the quality and the condition of the buildings in the land at stake. And once that is done, I think we'll be in a position to become more aggressive in terms of the negotiation for finalization.
Woods.
Mr. Speaker, my questions are to the Minister responsible for workers' compensation. Once again, we have yet another report about how the WCB would rather harass injured workers in this province than help them, and I'm referring to yesterday's decision by the Alberta Court of Appeal, which ruled that the WCB had no right, no claim to the award made to Mr. William Peters pursuant to a private insurance contract that he bought and paid for. In light of this ruling by these judges and by the court, Mr. Speaker, will the minister that's responsible for the WCB now apologize to Mr. Peters for this harassment and immediately order the WCB board to stop harassment tactics like this against the injured workers of Alberta?
Mr. Speaker, I am not aware of anything the honourable member is asking about, and if he would... Oh, well...
Is that where you get your information from?
Ask him if he's personally met with the individual. Ask him if he's personally met with personally.
Read the comments too? I wonder if the honourable member would provide me something he's received personally and not act on the advice of some of the press that sometimes don't get the facts straight, and I'd be glad to act on it. What do you look?
Mr. Speaker, it's appalling that this minister doesn't know what the decisions of the Court of Appeal of this province are. That's disgraceful.
Minister of the Crown, do you believe it? Do you believe it?
But Mr. Speaker, he doesn't know what's happening. But let me ask him this, because the people of Alberta would like to know, would he agree to table in the legislature an itemized list of all the costs that were incurred by the WCB, in this case, in trying to steal Mr. Peters' insurance award, as well as all the legal costs in the past year that the WCB has incurred to try to harass workers through the courts? Would he do that?
Mr. Speaker, the word steal, the Workers' Compensation Board would not steal from anybody, and I don't think that's a proper word. In response to the question, am I aware of the orders of the courts, I suppose I would be if the order of the courts come to my office. So far I have received nothing. So, Mr. Speaker, it's pretty hard to act on what's in the Calgary... Well, it's a little difficult to act on what's in the Calgary Sun or the Edmonton Sun or the Edmonton Journal or the Calgary Herald, but if the information... I guess, Mr. Speaker, they don't care to hear.
Yeah. The honourable member for Calgary Mountain View.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Public accounts committees are intended to be watchdogs on government spending on behalf of the public. And the Canadian Council of Public Accounts Committees have published guidelines on how they might be more effective. These guidelines, Mr. Speaker, set out a comprehensive series of reforms which would help public accounts committees make governments across Canada more accountable for their management of taxpayers' money. Today, the Tory majority on the Public Accounts Committee of this legislature forced through a motion that Alberta abandon any further consideration of these reforms. I'd like to ask a question to the Chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, Mr. Speaker. Would the Chairman of the Public Accounts Committee give this Assembly an indication of what some of those reforms that were defeated this morning by the Conservative majority, what did the Tories vote no to today?
The Honourable Government House Leader is rising on a point of order.
Last 3 years, the Canadian Council of Public Accounts Committee has been meeting, and they've prepared a set of guidelines for...
It is order, please. Order, please. While the chair understands that the rules do provide for members of the majority party to ask questions under certain circumstances of members of the opposition, the chair is unaware of any authority that allows a member of one party, private member, to ask another private member. The order, please. The chair recognizes that the Honourable Member for Calgary Forest Lawn is a chairman of a standing committee of this House. But the chair is unaware of any precedent that allows for chairmen of standing committees to be asked questions. And therefore, the chair believes that that question is out of order. What does 405 say? What does 405 say? Order, please. Before citation 405, order, please. Citation 405 says questions may be asked of private members only under strict limitations. Virtually the only question possible would refer to a committee of which the member is the chairman. Therefore, the chair, with the advice of Beauchesne, number 405, will allow the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee to answer the question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
That was a timeout.
The question, Mr. Speaker, had to do with some of the guidelines that were proposed by the Canadian Council of Public Accounts Committees for the operation of Public Accounts Committee.
You just can't take it. You just can't take it.
First of all, the guidelines propose that the size of these committees should be reduced. Maximum cap would be 11 members. The members should be allowed to complete a line of questioning, that there should be adequate resources made available to these committees so that they could do proper research, that they should have the power to meet both during and outside of session. The most controversial recommendation that I think led to the motion that appeared before the Public Accounts Committee this morning was a recommendation that says that Public Accounts Committees shall have the right to investigate or review all past, current, and committed expenditures of government and organizations receiving funds from governments. And that's essentially, Mr. Speaker, that's what they voted down.
Mr. Speaker, this action by the Conservative majority on the Public Accounts Committee reinforces the image of a tired, secretive government more interested in protecting themselves from questions about their mismanagement.
Order in the Assembly. Order. Order, please. The honourable member has the floor for a supplemental. Now, members of the House should give the honourable member the courtesy of being able to put that question.
I'm obliged to you, Mr. Speaker. This action today by the Conservative majority reinforces an image of a tired, secretive government more interested in protecting themselves from questions about their mismanagement than they are in improving the financial...
Honourable member, to be in order, the supplemental should have at least a succinct, if any, introduction. You've had the lead into the main question. Now ask the supplemental question.
Drown them out. I keep being drowned out, Mr. Speaker, but I would like to ask the chairman whether he has any examples of the savings to the public that could be realized by adopting some of the recommendations of the Canadian Council of Public Accounts Committees.
Take 10 minutes. Yes, Mr. Speaker, I can provide, I think, a very good example. The Ontario Public Accounts Committee reviewed the proposals to spend over $1 billion public money on the Sky Dome in Toronto, and through the activities of that committee, they were able to save the taxpayers of Toronto, and I have this on the authority of the chairman of that committee, approximately $100 million.
The honourable member for Edmonton Whitemud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's days like today that I reflect on those wonderful memories of City Hall. Mr. Speaker, my question is directed to the Minister responsible for Transportation and Utilities. Mr. Speaker, the truckers' dispute continues. Consumers have to be concerned about the possible impact on certain goods such as gasoline. Disruptions are occurring in vehicular movement because of lane blockage. Safety concerns have clearly arisen. Mr. Speaker, my question to the Minister of Transportation and Utilities. To the Minister, are you prepared to appoint a mediator to resolve this dispute and get those trucks rolling and the drivers back on payroll?
Mr. Speaker, the trucks are rolling. The trucks are rolling and goods are moving, and to the best of my knowledge, there are no blockages on the public highways. And in the meetings that I've had over the last couple of days with the representative of the newly formed association, that concern was raised, and we discussed it, that if blockages should occur, that you left me no alternative but to call in the RCMP to remove the blockades. They assured me at that time that there would not be blockades. That was not in their best interests. And the question relative to the part about the mediator, as I said earlier, yesterday and the day before, Mr. Speaker, is that when you're dealing with an independent operator businessman and another businessman, there is no mechanism in place to do that. And basically in the formation of their association, to get the cart and the horse in the right order, once the association is formed, that they should make an effort to contact the owners of the companies and sit down with them. My understanding as of yesterday was they were beginning to do that, and they were getting some good responses. They haven't had the meetings as yet, and I haven't had any return call from those that I met with who would indicate to me that someone has not, Mr. Speaker, indicated that they would meet with them, and then I would kick in the good offices clause that I said earlier, yesterday and the day before, in response to questions, to call those people. Although I had no legal right to tell them to do it, I would ask them to sit down with them.
Mr. Speaker, the concerns raised by drivers as far as safety is concerned has to be a concern to all of us. To the Minister, Mr. Speaker, will the Minister undertake to review the truckers' concerns relating to safety and take whatever steps are necessary to ensure that there are no unnecessary risks when it comes to the transporting of goods by trucks?
Mr. Speaker, presently, as both the members that I met with were assured, that in the process of the National Safety Code, we now do and have continued to do for a good number of years the inspections, and we would continue. And if they had any trucks that they were prepared to identify for me that were not safe, we would check them out. We would check them out. Safety is number one, and that safety standard is met by the inspections. In Alberta, I should mention that they are voluntary. In BC, they are mandatory. In Saskatchewan, they are mandatory. And we discussed the possibility of looking at what would happen if they were to be mandatory in Alberta. A suggestion that we may be sitting down at some point after this is settled with the association and discuss with them, because they have a concern for safety, and I believe it's a true concern, and certainly we do in the movement of goods and services, and our inspections will continue, and anybody that is not meeting those standards will be pulled off the road.
Now we have for Calgary Glenmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last evening I had the opportunity to host on behalf of the Alberta Economic and Development and Trade Minister reception for approximately 700 people at the National Petroleum Show, and while all of us are sitting in here, everybody in Calgary are having a lot of fun. And Mr. Speaker, there were at least 150 different countries represented at this petroleum show, and many of these delegates were brought here, or to Calgary, at the expense of the Alberta taxpayers. And there was some concern expressed to me that this is an unnecessary expense, and should the Alberta taxpayers be burdened with it. And I would like to ask the Minister of Economic Development and Trade if he could explain to the Assembly the reason for the department paying for these delegates' expense to come to Alberta.
Mr. Speaker, let me leave the honourable member with the strong assurance that we always scrutinize very carefully any expenditures that we do on behalf of the Alberta taxpayer, because we are very cognizant of the very good work that can be done in a very modest way, and I stress the word modest. We do these in conjunction with the federal government. We access federal funds, plus we put together funds on behalf of the Alberta taxpayer. As the honourable member has justifiably indicated, it is the most successful and the largest petroleum show of its kind in North America. We do offer support to foreign visitors who are potential buyers, recognizing that trade is so essential to the province of Alberta. As an example, last year we sold some $200 million worth of oil, goods and services relating to that industry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a shame that members across the way are laughing at an important issue such as this with regards to trade delegations brought to the province of Alberta to help sustain our economy. I'd like to ask the Minister again if the private sector is becoming involved with bringing these delegates forward in conjunction with the department, with your department.
Mr. Speaker, we work hand in hand with the private sector. There were some 1,200 exhibitors at this show. Private sector individuals and companies are very involved, making sure that their wares are well exposed to those potential buyers from a number of countries throughout the world. I leave the honourable member with a strong assurance that we do work hand in hand. The private sector is the spark plug of growth within this province. We recognize how important trade is to this province, and we're proud of the increase by way of exportation of our goods that we have experienced over the last number of years in the trade that we do with some 140 countries throughout the world.
Honourable Deputy Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on behalf of the Government House Leader to respond to the point of order raised by the Government House Leader, and it's in relation to the question posed by the honourable member from Calgary Mountain View to the Chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. And Mr. Speaker, I draw your attention to Shane 410 sub 10, which states that the subject matter of questions must be within the collective responsibility of the government or the individual responsibility of ministers. Mr. Speaker, I also refer you to 409 and the preamble before the sub-paragraphs, saying a brief question seeking information about an important matter of some urgency which falls within the administrative responsibility of the government or of a specific minister to whom it is addressed is in order. And therefore, I would respectfully submit on behalf of the Government House Leader that the question was out of order.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Highlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We anticipated that this question might arise. I'd like to point out, first of all, that the citations from the minister do not preclude, Mr. Speaker, they do not preclude asking questions of the chair of any committee. And this would obviously be true because the government members themselves often ask questions of chairs of committees who are not ministers. So let's be very careful about that. Now,
they're not. They're backbenchers.
The limitation that is cited in the Beauchesne reference 405, which follows what you read into the record earlier, which followed our stating that 405 was in fact the basis for being entitled to ask the question, reads as follows: a question asking, for example, if a member intended to introduce certain legislation is out of order. Mr. Speaker, that was taken into account today. So was an extensive and, I would argue, exhaustive reference in Erskine May. And as you know, Mr. Speaker, this is often used as a backdrop series of arguments from which we derive Canadian rules of order. And I think it's worthwhile reading a section that starts on page 286. It'll take a couple of minutes, but it is worth it. The subsection is 3, and it reads, questions to private members. Questions addressed to private members relating to a bill, motion, or other matter connected with the business of the House for which such members are responsible have been allowed. The Speaker has, however, expressed doubt whether it would be in accordance with modern parliamentary practice for questions to be addressed to private members except in the case of the Second Church Estates Commissioner and chairman of certain select committees. Questions are also sometimes addressed to the chairman of committees directly concerned with the working of the House. The next sentence is long, but I'll read it because it bridges to the one that's critical here. The Leader of the House regularly answers questions not only in this capacity, but as chairman of the House of Commons Services Committee, and in exercising this function, private members who are members of the committee have answered questions on his behalf, including on catering matters to chairman of the catering subcommittee. Since the establishment of the House of Commons Commission, questions on their behalf have been regularly answered by a private member who is a member of the Commission. This is the critical part. Questions may be similarly addressed to the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. Mr. Speaker, the reference is it's about twice that long, but I didn't want anybody to argue that I had taken the citation out of context. I will read again what I believe makes the argument very clear, and that is questions may be similarly addressed to the chairman of the Public Accounts Commission. I think there is no doubt, Mr. Speaker, that that question was in order, and if the government faces a certain sensitivity about this issue, maybe it ought to ask the political reasons why, and not the rules, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary-Milliken.
This question today was questioning the decision of the Public Accounts Committee.
Right.
Now, Mr. Speaker, in all parliamentary tradition, anywhere, if you were going to bring that in and question a decision, then undoubtedly we would, during the question period of this House, debate the two sides of it. While today, we heard a one-sided debate on that. That is not in order.
Going to debate it tomorrow across the floor?
Honourable member for Stony Plain.
Mr. Speaker, further to this, as Beauchesne 409 is cited by a deputy government House leader, and I'll read it very clearly so that he can remember it. It says, in 1975, the Speaker expressed some general principles in order to clarify the regulations and restrict the negative qualifications which traditionally have guided the question period. Then he went to another subsection. I would like to point out that the reason for this particular citation is to enhance the quality of question period. I have sat here for many a day and listened to questions to other chairmen from both sides of the House to get similar kinds of information. And we have accorded to the chairman of these committees, ADAC or multiculturalism or whatever it is, the courtesy and the opportunity to express what is happening within their domains. I would also like to point out another area where we have been exceedingly tolerant in some instances, and that is subsection 4, which reads, the question ought to be an important matter and not be frivolous. And how many frivolous questions have we heard back and forth to get puffball answers? Very good.
Frivolous answers.
So, Mr. Speaker, I think these questions were totally in order, and they should be respected today and in the future. Thank you.
Order, please. The chair is not prepared to rule on the point of order at this time, but it wishes to take it under advisement and will report to the Assembly tomorrow or the next day. Orders of the day.
Government bills and orders for second reading.